Yeah, that's certainly, you could call it a research team. Absolutely. Look, to be honest, it's just it's a meeting of some form or other. It could be a research team. It could even be a focus group. Okay. Do you know what a focus group is? Yeah. Okay. Have you ever been part of a focus group? I actually wonder about focus groups myself. Um, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, whether you have or haven't. Um, because a focus group is where we would pull people together to discuss a topic or whatever. And it's supposed to be sort of a sample of people. I always find it interesting because the idea of a focus group is that these people don't know each other. I mean, if you put in people who are together, you're getting a sort of a particular group's insight. But if you put people together who are not, who don't know each other, then there's an element of how do people behave in the first time in a group setting with people they don't know. So I'm not really sure about that aspect of it, but it is a sort of an often used tool. Okay, it's part of market research. So we're going to talk about research because research is crucial to us progressing any sort of marketing activity. So we talked about marketing last week as being, first of all, a process of, and I'm paraphrasing here, identifying, understanding, and then resolving customer needs profitably. Okay. In fact, let me get the exact definition. I'm going to get the exact definition because I should give you the same definition. The management process responsible for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customer requirements profitably. So that's what we're talking about. But the first step in that, or one of the first steps, has got to be understanding who the customer is and what they want. And that's why we talk about market research. All right. So this is the module. We want to understand the importance of marketing in an organization. We want to understand market research and planning, how we go about doing research to develop a marketing plan. And we want to understand how and why customer groups are targeted, which is kind of part of the same thing, and then develop a marketing mix. Okay. So the last day I asked you, we'll give you sort of a brief quiz, and I asked you, what do you think marketing actually is? Now, this is not all of your responses. The last few are your responses in this class. Oh, hang on, I haven't switched on my camera yet. Hi, Esther. So these are your responses. So I think, Rana, your one was an opportunity to present one's brand in a way that they want to be recognized, and also to get more and more people to find out about the brand itself. So very much brand heavy, which is not bad. Not wrong, which is good. To let more people know about your business, yes, that's definitely a key part of it. A process of promoting goods and services is another part of it. But let's also remember that for each of those, you're talking about how you present the brand, everything else. It's got to start with understanding what people want. Okay, so the ones up above are all answers from previous classes. I'll put them into a lighter color. Okay, and these are yours. The second question was, what is meant by the term brand? So the name or title of a product. And again, I'll put these ones here into this here. And so these are yours here. What a company stands for, I like that. The face of the company, again, is useful. a product manufactured by, so that's where you're linking it to a product under a particular name, okay? And again, these are all useful useful elements. Business concept, I'm not too sure of. Brand is a type of product manufactured by a particular company under a particular name. Oh, well, that comes up twice. So yeah, no, that was here. No, it's not. Business concept, to make people know what's the name of the product. So a lot of these points are about the name. Actually, it's a bit more than that. The name is just the image or the name that we associate it. Just like, you know, Esther, we call you Esther. That's the name we're using for you, or Rana is the name we're using for you. But Esther or Rana doesn't describe everything about you. It's the name, but it doesn't describe what you believe. It doesn't describe necessarily what you stand for. Rana is the same. It doesn't describe what you stand for, doesn't describe what you believe about certain things, doesn't describe what you can do necessarily. So there is a difference between the name, which is the recognition, and this idea of standing for something. So we're going to talk about that as well, because, you know, when we look at this, while the word brand isn't there, it's central to this piece here. Describe how a selected organization develops a coherent marketing mix for a new product. It's central to this because it describes a bit about what the product is. So the question, what is meant by the term brand, is interesting. It's not just a name. It's not just a logo. It's actually a set of values. Okay, it's a set of values. It's what the business stands for, what the product stands for, what the service stands for. And I don't mean just physically, I mean, what do we believe in, okay? Why is that important? Well, it's important because as we get into this next section, we're going to talk about market research and segmentation. So what we're trying to do is identify who the customer is, understand what they're about, what their needs are, and try and see, can we develop a solution, okay? As part of that segmenting process, we are going to profile people. We're going to profile people in terms of put them into some sort of buckets effectively. I know that's a terrible term. But both of you are female, you're Asian, you're in the age, I'm assuming, you're 17 to 23. Am I right? In that sort of age, what ages are you? Now, yes, I know, Esther, you're Vietnamese, and Rana, you're Malaysian. Oh, Rana, sorry, I beg your pardon, Rana. What was I assuming you were female? My bad. Okay, you're male, 24. So, you're Asian, you're male, you're 24. Esther, what age are you, Esther? Well, I apologize, Rana. See, that's me making assumptions about names, which is a good example of getting the brand wrong. Esther, Esther's gone. Okay, Esther's not telling me her age. Okay, Esther's working, so I know she's got to be 18, 20 up anyway. My point is, we put people into buckets, I use the term buckets as in categories, so that we can communicate with them better. So, for example, if we're talking about females in the age range 20 to 25, or males in the age range 20 to 25, we might actually have different ads, okay? If we're talking about somebody in Asia, we might have a different ad to somebody in Europe. If we're talking about somebody in Vietnam, it might be a different ad again to somebody in Malaysia, okay? And we might use techniques to try and figure out what people are interested in as ways of associating with what they're interested in to engage with them. So in one sense, we're trying to identify a brand, we're trying to put a brand on people. That sounds terrible. We're trying to put you into a particular cohort and then figure a way to communicate with you so that you buy into you understand and you recognize what our brand values are, and so that we find common ground. That's kind of what we're trying to do. Okay, oh, you're back, Esther. Hi again. So my point is that it's not just a name, it's actually a way for us to communicate what the brand is and who we as an organization are. All right. And this is part of the relationship building process, because we talked about the marketing definition and the marketing concept, right? And as I said, it's this management process responsible for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customer requirements profitably. So that's our working definition. And we talked about this core marketing concept as being the fact that there are markets, which is a market is a container, for want of a better word. Could be geographic, could be gender, could be age groups, could be beliefs. It's a container of similar customers or consumers or people with a similar problem. And we need to identify what those needs, wants, and demands are for those customers in that marketplace, so that we can develop products and services which add value, satisfaction, and quality to the people in the marketplace. In other words, they see our products and services as having that sort of value, and they're willing to trade for that value, which means we have some sort of exchange transaction and ultimately build up a relationship. So that's the core marketing concept. It's not about me having something and selling it to you because I'm trying to sell it and I'm not interested in you. That's the quick sale, the hard sell, and it's not the way that we build up a long-term engagement. And thank you, Esther. 20 and female. All right. So what I was saying was, so yeah, we don't build up a long-term engagement unless we're looking to understand, and there has to, and any relationship is about give and take. It's about helping find common ground and finding connections, which generally means we're doing something for each other, right? Which is that central idea of value down here. Okay, so this is the marketing concept. We talked about needs, wants, and demands. Needs being states of felt deprivation, okay? Felt deprivation, which means it's something that we want or we need. So it might be that we want that pair of jeans. It might be that we really want that pair of shoes. It might be that we want to go to this place on holidays. Felt deprivation doesn't mean deprived, it's felt that we feel we need it. So it can be physical needs, can be more than that. Wants are a form of needs which are shaped by culture and individual personality. So it's a bit more things that we want, you know, because they help define us, or because we believe they will help define us, or because they fit with who we define ourselves as. And when we have needs and wants backed by buying power, this means we have demand. We have the ability to solve our needs, to meet our wants. Okay, so that's the sort of the first stage. As a result, then, if we're looking at the marketplace, we develop products and services to meet those needs and wants. Okay, it can be a product, it can be a service, but the idea is that we recognize that people have needs and wants, and we're trying to solve those needs and wants. Okay. There has to be value, satisfaction, and quality. Now, this one is particularly useful, this particular point. We all make buying choices based on the value that we perceive a product or service has. So there are certainly times when my perception of value is tied to my need or my want. If my need is acute, I'm going to be more willing to spend money, as long as I have it. I'm willing to accept less quality. I'm willing to compromise to a certain extent because I have more than just a want. It's an urgent need. If I have more time and I'm not really sure, I'm going to be looking for better value satisfaction. So value is the difference between the value the customer gains from owning or using the products or services and the cost of obtaining the products and services. In other words, I'm buying value. So the value I gain might be immediate abatement of hunger. It might be that I'm really thirsty and I need a cold drink and I really need it now. Okay. It might be that I want this fashion. Okay. And I'm shopping around for something to come for an upcoming wedding or an upcoming event or party. And I don't need it today or tomorrow. Maybe the thing is in 2 weeks' time. So I'm really looking for something that I feel good about and that sort of is going to give me what I really want or capture my attention. Right. So value is different in every circumstance, but it is this idea that I have a value, I put a value on what the thing is, and I want it. I want it because I'm thirsty. I want it because I'm going to an event. I want it because I want to go there. I want it because my business needs this equipment. So there's the value is what we're going to gain, and the cost is the price we're willing to pay. Now, we make our buying choices based on the perception of that value. So we're not going to buy the product if the value is exceeded by the cost. We're much less likely to buy the product. The value to us, the value that we perceive. I'm not saying that that's a set thing because it's not. It can change over time. So we may be hungry and we may be shopping around and we may think, okay, I can buy that there for $10. But really, it's not really what I want, so I'm going to shop around a bit more. Now, in half an hour's time, if I haven't got anything, what was $10 to me that I wasn't sure about, the value, the perceived value may have changed. I may realize, okay, I need this. I need this now, okay? So it's not static, but it's this idea that there's value and there's a cost. Satisfaction, however, depends on the perceived performance. So perceived value, perceived performance. Perceived value is what we think the value is going to be, what we believe the value is going to be, and perceived performance is a function of the actual performance, what we actually get. Did it deliver the value we expected, right? Did this food satisfy our hunger? Was that drink enough to quench our thirst? All right. Hi, Andrew. So, this slide is particularly important. It's this idea of value, satisfaction, and quality. Quality is the totality of the features and characteristics of a product and service that bear on its ability to satisfy customers' need. So the quality is the totality of the features and characteristics. It's what we see and what we feel and what we get and everything else. But value and satisfaction are more subjective. So just because you think you make the best product, it doesn't mean it's perceived that way by every single customer. And what that really means is the more we understand our customer, the better positioned we are to make sure that the value we offer, that the perception of the customer's perception, at this stage, only potential customer, that the customer's perception of the value is enough to warrant the price. And if we deliver the product the right way, or we deliver the service the right way, and we achieve customer satisfaction, then that's a very positive outcome. The customer feels they have parted with money, they've received their value, and they are satisfied with it. So there's places for this to fall over. But if we do achieve that, then we're at the start of building a relationship. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it sort of brings us back to this question of brand, if you like. Brand is really important because it helps us communicate the potential value, if you like. Because it's not just about the product or the service, it's about the provision of, okay? So, but it also highlights the need for us to really understand the customer and what their needs and wants and desires are, which is why we have to talk about research, okay? So this is the market orientation. We should be looking to solve problems and develop solutions to solve those problems. That's what we should be doing, okay? If we can do that, we're going to have exchange, transactions, and relationships. Exchange is the act of, obtaining a desired object from somebody by offering something in return. Give them the product, they give us the money. Give them the service, they give us the money. Okay. Now that exchange, a transaction might be on credit, might be in cash, might be with barter, but the bottom line is that there is a transaction according to some agreement. Okay. So transactions are the trade value between the partners. Okay. Classically, of course, that's money versus products or services. It could be barter. Do you guys know barter? You know what barter is? So barter is if I have a bicycle and you have a book and I really want your book, not really that keen on cycling around anymore, and I agree to trade you the bicycle for the book. Okay? So that's barter. It's trade without cash. I have something, you have something, we each want some of what the other has, so we agree some sort of trade or some sort of arrangement. Okay? Now, I know what you're thinking, right? A bicycle for a book seems like an imbalance. Well, that's why each transaction is complex. It can be. It could be, I'll let you have the bike for a week. So you get the use of the bike for a week and I get the book. All right? Does that make sense? Okay. It could be I decide I agree to clean your house for you in return for being fed, but in return for you giving me shelter and food for a week. Okay, something like that. So the problem with barter is in the equality of value. It's very hard to get that judgment right. Whereas cash is easier because we know straight away we have an idea what the value of cash is. That's why, that's why money works effectively. But don't knock barter completely out of the picture. It can be useful at times. But central to these exchange and transactions is the fact that we build a relationship. That we look to build a relationship based on creating short-term transactions. Sometimes they're longer-term transactions, but building long-term relationships with valued customers and other partners in trade, so distributors, dealers, etc. So if we build the relationships, we're going to have to do more activities. That's the bottom line. All right, which means that we end up in a market. And a market is the set of actual or potential buyers of a product or a service. Okay, the actual and potential buyers are the set of the actual potential buyers of a product or a service. All right. Now, that's hard to define in some cases. Some cases it's easy, some cases it's harder. But we look at market size in a couple of ways. We could look at it in terms of the number of people in the marketplace, or we could look at it in terms of the value of the market, in terms of the total sales. All right. So we could look at the market in different ways. We can paint that picture in different ways. That market is a $3 million market, or that market is a market of 1,000 people. Okay. We could look at potential transactions. Actually, we could look at this market and say, you know what? There's about 10,000 haircuts in that market every year. All right. So we can quantify different ways as suits. But what we do need to do is define it. What is the market? And then it makes more sense for us to find a segment of the market that we want to work with, which might be a subset for whom we can identify specific customers or needs. So we might say in that market, we're going to focus on the females, right? In that market, we're going to focus on the under 25s, okay? In that market, we're going to focus on the people who look like football. So we find some sort of way to segment the market, which brings me back to what we were saying. We need to be able to profile people. If we can profile them, we can put them into a segment. If we can focus on a segment, we're likely to get more bang for our buck in terms of investment into marketing. All right. And in terms of the decisions that we make, if we do segment up the market, we might realize that this segment is growing much faster than this segment. So which segment would you want to be in? Segment A, which is growing fast, or segment B, which is not growing at all? So which one would you want to be in? For me, I'd like to be in a growing segment generally, as long as there's some sort of scale to it. If this is like, you know, $1,000 market, or this is like a $4 million market, it's hard to ignore. But other than that, we've got to start thinking about the future too. So that's what we talk about in terms of the core marketing concept. Now, if we buy into that concept and we understand it, we're in a much better position to develop a solution, what we're going to call the marketing mix. Okay? So marketing is this process of identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customer requirements profitably. And what we normally try and do, I'm just going to jump ahead to show you this. I think it's there. Hang on. I thought I had the slide. Okay, 1 second. The marketing mix. I'm missing a slide. Okay, hang on. The marketing mix basically is the 4 P's, okay? Product, price, place, and promotion, okay? Oh, maybe it's there. Okay, I've lost it. All right, it's not what I'm going to talk about now, but the marketing mix is a concept. If we understand the marketing concept, if we've done our work, right? If we understand our market and market segment, what that means is we know who our target customers are. We know what their needs, wants, and demands are. Okay. We are then in a position, if we are in a position to offer a solution. Okay. Basically, value and satisfaction. Now, that's what we're offering, and hopefully we're going to deliver. Okay. And we do that using a marketing mix. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that we, by creating, we might create a marketing mix which is a function of the 4 P's: product, or service, okay, place, price, and promotion. Okay, this is the original marketing mix. It's been expanded to 7 elements, but this is the original marketing mix. That once we understand our marketing concept, once we identify the customers, once we understand their needs, etc., and who they are, we're going to build up a relationship. We've identified the segment and so on. We develop the product that's going to solve that problem. So the product or the service. We figure out where the product or service is going to be delivered. Now that could be, of course, virtually now, right? But it could be a store, it could be on site. We figure out the price that we're going to offer the product at. Yeah, sorry, just take this. Yeah. We're going to figure out the price we're going to offer it at. Okay. And then we put together a promotion campaign. Okay, so in that instance, what we're doing is second. Sorry, there we go. Oops. In that instance, what we're doing is we're putting together a package that we roll out to introduce ourselves, to build, to engage with potential customers, to grab their attention, to encourage them to participate, okay? To draw them into a negotiation, hopefully leading to a transaction. That's what we're trying to do, okay? Does that make sense? And that's when you will see, that's when we experience the advertisement on TV, when we experience the phone advertisement, sorry, the radio advertisement, when we see a picture on a billboard, or we see something going by on a bus, or we see something in our Twitter feed or our Instagram feed. So that's as a result of somebody putting a lot of work into this marketing mix. Does that make sense? Okay. Over there. Okay, so that's what we're trying to get to now. To do that, we really need to understand our customers. We really have to understand our customers, okay? Which is why we need to sort of go back to, 1 second, let me get the right slide here. Well, actually, I'm going to come to that in terms of homework in a minute. Let me color that so that I can find it quickly. We need to know our customers. We need to really understand who our customers are, what it is they want, what it is they think, where are they, what are their problems, what are their issues. And I don't just mean for the promotion campaign or the marketing mix. Actually, this is why we start at the very start talking about focus groups. We might also talk about surveys. We might even talk about observation. What we have to do is do market research. That's what we have to do. We have to do market research so that we can gain an understanding of our customers. All right? Does that make sense? Now, how do we do that? Well, we need to follow some sort of market research process. There's nothing radical about this. It's not radically different from any other any other research process. It's the same sort of idea. We need to identify the problem, what it is that we're trying to solve, what the research is aiming at. We need to develop a research plan, how we're going to do it. We need to conduct the research. We need to analyze the report findings, and we need to take action. That's a generic research process, okay? Now, we're bending that to use for a business point of view, okay? Which means when we think about it, the problem to solve is, well, we probably have an idea going in. But if we were back to our hair salon, right, we probably have an idea that, you know what, we need to kind of figure out what the potential for a salon, hair salon market is in this place, in this area. So we'd want to try and define the problem. The problem is there a need for a high-end hair salon in this location or that location? Is there a need for an online fashion store specializing in Hawaiian shirts for Ireland? Is there a need for um, uh, a new dating app in Hanoi? Is there a need for a new accommodation matching service in Singapore? Okay, so we might define the problem, right? Initially, we're identifying the problem, we're defining the problem, we might put some project objectives in place. Okay, what we want to find out is what's the size of the market. We want to find out what the current prices in the market or solutions are. We might want to find out some other things about the market. We might want to determine how many potential customers there might be for a new service. So we can define it in different ways. And then we're going to develop a research plan. So we're going to identify the information we need. We figure out the methods that we're going to use. Pretty much anything is going to involve some sort of desk research anyway. Do you guys know desk research? Have you done desk research? It's not research on desks, okay? It's doing research from your desk, starting with the internet, looking up information. You know, historically would have been going to a library and taking books and reading periodicals, looking at newspapers, etc. So a lot of that we can do from our desk now. We can sort of gather information from secondary sources, okay? That gives us a picture. And then we might want to go and do some primary research, which is, you know, conducting surveys and so on to get primary data collection. To look and find out what do people actually think, to look and find out what people actually do with, to find out where they go, to talk to them about what their ideas are. So those are the types of things that we need to try and get our heads around, okay? So we're conducting research. Then once we've done that, once we've done our desk research, our primary research, our focus groups, our surveys, we need to come back together and say, okay, what have we found? Put it together in some sort of research report or some sort of, now, this doesn't have to be incredibly formal, by the way. This can be, you know, for our use internally, not going outside. So we can decide what that needs to be. But out of that, we might have some recommendations, and then we get to make a decision. We get to take action. So that's kind of where we're at with this, so market research. So we might talk about some key questions. What are the questions? What do we need to know? How might we get the answers? What should we do with the information, and what does it mean? Okay, so those are useful for us to help frame what market research might be for us in this instance, or for in this case, or in this business, or whatever. Okay, if we were to, so Esther, because I know you're involved with a school, okay. If your school was considering opening another venue, it might do some market research in that venue, right? So it might be, we're in this place here, and we know there's a growing population over there. We want to go and see, is it worth our while to open another, a satellite school over here, okay? It might be, do we want to bring in a new course? Well, we might do some research in the city to determine, okay, is there a need for this skill or that skill, or what needs do employers have for the future, and to take it from there, okay? So we might talk to some employers who say, look, we really need programming skills, right? There's nobody around here teaching programming skills, or there's nobody coming out of college with HR skills, human resource management skills. So it might be a case that we try to figure out, well, okay, what skills are needed? Is there a market for this? Do people want to do it? And can we provide it? So we might do a research exercise like that, okay? Some of that might be sort of product development research. Some of it is no doubt market research, specific market research into the market, the customer, what the customer wants and what the customer needs, which means we might come at this with a repetitive approach, an iterative approach. So we might do an initial piece just to get an initial scoping, and we might decide, no, that's not worth it, we're going to forget that, we're going to go somewhere else. Or it might be a case of saying, well, okay, yeah, now this is worth doing a proper exercise. We might go back and do something a bit more in depth. And what we want to do is to identify the target customer and what their needs and wants are, and a bit more about them. So if you were to pick one of these businesses below, okay, right? Any one of those businesses, how would you identify the target customer? What might you do? So give me a suggestion of one of these businesses that you might be interested in operating or researching. Anybody? What about a coffee cart? If I was thinking about buying a coffee cart and setting up a coffee cart business, you know what a coffee cart is? I mean, it doesn't actually have to be a cart. It could be something a bit different. Okay. So like a mobile pop-up coffee business. So let me see if I can, let's do one here, right? Okay. So if I was doing that, what would we be looking for? Could be something like this. Okay. Although I'm not sure that'll be tall enough for me. A little trailer. Okay. The benefit of that is it works in a wetter climate, by the way. It could be something like so if we were starting up something like this, okay, there's one in California. Again, same sort of idea, small little van. It's obviously not going to travel very fast, but the whole thing is that you can put it away and bring it back again. But you're basically setting up a small little coffee station, right? So if I was thinking about doing that, what might I be interested in? And what questions would I want to ask her? How would I determine whether to do it or not? Because if I was doing something like this, I'd need to buy some sort of trailer unit. I'd need to convert it. So that's going to take a bit of work, a little bit of, hard labor to get it like that. Maybe some of the parts need to be there to get the wiring in, to put in buy a little barista coffee thing to create shelving and to have a generator available to run it and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to cost me a few euro to do that. I mean, I'm just going to Google it. If I was to see what it would cost, um, Retro food truck, 19,000. So yeah, you're talking, talking an investment. Okay. So something like the orange one, might be 10,000, 15,000 to set it up. Okay. Um, which means I'm going to need to make some money, right? So if I was doing that, first of all, where how do I determine if there's a market before I spend the money? Or are there markets? Because this is a mobile coffee stop, remember. What do you think? How would I determine it? So I want to do a market research exercise, don't I? So what are the types of questions I need to ask? Come on, folks. What do you think? What would I need to know? Can you hear me? Rana? Yenru? What would I need to know? Can you guys see me? Can you hear me? Oh, excellent. Good, Esther. Are there? Yes, I think that's a really good question. So where do I want to go? I want to be where there's going to be people, right? And who buys coffee? Well, normally the people buy it on their way to work or taking a break from work, don't they? Maybe at lunchtime. Okay. I mean, there's no point in doing it at a shopping mall because there's going to be restaurants and coffee places in there. So I think, yeah. So where are the office workers? Might be a really good place to start. Okay. Where are the office workers? Okay. And how many are there? Right. And we might also ask, what alternatives do they have? Okay. So the where question is really important, first of all. Now, how could you get that information? I mean, yeah, you can probably identify the office buildings, right? So what you might want to do is to go and you know what? I'm going to spend the next week, I'm going to stand outside a few of these office buildings and I'm going to count how many people come out and how many people go in. Or I'm going to look at lunchtime and see where do people go at lunchtime? What are they doing? And what are the things available to them? So yeah, absolutely. It could be looking at a map. We could start with Google Maps, right? We could start with Google Maps and try and figure out what's the sort of density of the space. And are there existing solutions? And if there aren't, would it be possible to put one in? And remember, because this is mobile, it might be, maybe there's two locations, all right? Maybe there's one for early morning and there's another one for lunchtime, and I can transfer between the two. So it could be something simple, it could be something like that. So the where, how many of them are there? What does the competition look like? And assuming that we think there's a space where this might actually work, then we might want to figure out, well, okay, what type of coffees would people like? What else would they like? What prices might they be willing to pay? So those would be questions that would be useful to ask as well, wouldn't it? So what type of drinks or breaks do they want? Okay. Maybe it might be a question of, sorry, down here, more questions. It might be a question of, what flavors. It might be a question of how much would they be willing to pay. Okay. It might be well, I think that this is when it starts to get more useful. So assuming we can identify potential location, assuming we can identify a population where there's a gap, and we know what they want now. We've asked them what sort of coffees they like, and we've given a sense of what price they're willing to pay. Maybe the next type of thing is to learn more about them. So what would attract them to a coffee thing? Would it be a big flowery, bright color thing? Would it be a more conservative looking van? Would it be something with music playing? If so, what type of music, etc., etc., etc. Okay, learn more about them, what they like, and what might attract their attention. Okay, and actually, how can we contact, engage with them? How do we get them to know we're going to be here? Right? So this is some of the things we might be looking to ask. Does that make sense? So if we were developing one of these things, what we might decide to do then is, okay, you know what, we're going to be here, we're going to launch, we're going to do flyers, we're going to hand them into the office buildings, or we're going to try and do some sort of thing on Facebook to let people know, or on Instagram, and again, do some very targeted advertising to let them know, Shane's Coffee coming on Monday morning. Get your first coffee for half price. Etc., 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 or get a free slice of carrot cake with your first coffee, and so on. Okay, and what we're really trying to do is just to get a jump start on the market, but we're also trying to reach out to engage with our potential customers. So these are the types of questions that we might be asking and what we might be looking for. Does that make sense? And as we do that, we're in a much better position then to sort of understand what's going on, who the customers are, what they might like, what they might not like, what might attract their attention, what would sort of cause them to come to us, what would cause them to wait. So the problem with something like this is queuing. Okay, queuing for my coffee. Now we're kind of used to it, but we don't want to do a 20-minute queue. If it was going to be a 20-minute queue, that means there's room for more coffee machines, more coffee carts, and that would be competition straight away. So, but we were trying to figure out what and where and how. And of course, there's some extra operation stuff we'd have to do, like how would we actually make it work? Do we need some permits or licenses? Where do we get those? Do we need to sort of work with local vendors? Do we need to sort of make friends with people? How's that going to work? Where can we park up? So there's a whole range of other questions we could do, but these ones here are particularly focused on, is there a market? And in that market, who are the potential customers? And what might they like? What would they value? What's their perception of good coffee? Is it cheap? Is it good quality within the sort of price range? What are the answers to those questions? Now, we're never going to have all of those answers, but if we structure a research frame, and it could be in lots of smaller little frames, we can start to build up a picture of what this might look like. And once we know, well, we know. Okay? Is that okay? So for homework, I'd like you to choose one more of these. So I've done this one here, right? I've done this one. So pick one of the other ones and have a think about it. And for tomorrow, and tell me what type of information you might need or want and where it might come from. Okay, I'll drop this into the WhatsApp. Okay, all right. Any questions? No? Okay, good stuff. Thank you. Sorry I got you mixed up, Rana. No, now. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.